Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to another video on this channel. Hardcore spirituality. Hardcore. You have to work at it. Put in the work. How is your heart today? Is your heart kind? How is your mind? Is your mind calm and clear? Welcome back to another video, another story. Today we're going to talk about the third step. Is the third step simply just a decision, or is it our first attempt at conscious contact with the higher power? Let's get into it. According to the big book, okay, there's a process to taking this step. Bear with me. If you're meditating, you are developing patience and discipline, okay? So please have some patience. So on page 63 of the big book, and I have the 4th edition, you know, some people are like, I have my first book. Good for you. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. You know, misunderstand what we're doing. The third step. The wording was, of course, quite optional so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though. If honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action. Step 3 is a big deal. It's not just making a decision. I was sober, starting a spiritual walk, for 2 months in 1988, when my first sponsor invited me to go out to Founders Day, June 10th, in Akron, Ohio. Big event over a few days. We drove out. It was like 6 hours out. And then we were there, I think it was Friday, Saturday. We came home Sunday night, 6 hours back. I was sober 2 months. My sponsor already knew me, okay? What does that mean? If you go to the 5th step in the big book, this is, what I'm going to read to you is, my sponsor already knew me based on what it says in here. Sorry for the shaking. I'm putting everything on the stool there that holds my camera. So we're at into action, okay, on page 73. All right? Let's start on page 72. Now, this has to do with my sponsor got to know me. They're talking about step 5. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think, and when it says we, you can go back to I think it's the preface where it says, we are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. So when it says we think, that's those first 100 men and women. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. Did you watch that Courage and Fear video I put out earlier? They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. But they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary. We, those first 100 men and women who recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. And that's how my sponsor got to know me. I told him all my life story. So getting back to step 3. We went out to Founders Day. We were discussing steps, my progress, and things like this. And he said to me, do you know that back in the day, early AA, people used to take the 3rd step in the upper room of Dr. Bob's house? Well, I didn't know this. He said, and I read all of the chapters in step 3 by now. So we went to Dr. Bob's house. I kneeled down next to a bed like thousands of drunks before me had done, and took the 3rd step by reciting the 3rd step prayer. Did you know there's a 3rd step prayer? It's on page 63. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him, capital H. So, we like to say higher power, the great spirit, creator of the universe, these things. It says somewhere in here, and I read it yesterday, we don't argue about these things, okay? So, I took the 3rd step, 2 months sober, at Dr. Bob's house, in the upper room like thousands of people before me. I'm laughing because what I'm about to say, and I tell you stories. I'm a storyteller. And a lot of times, the topic that we're discussing, I have a story, okay? So now I have a story about a guy with a lot of time in AA who used to describe the 3rd step as this. 3 frogs were sitting on a log. They made a decision to jump in. And that's all you have to do with step 3 is make a decision. Like those 3 frogs. Well, if you've been watching my videos, you know I responded in kind with the truth. Let's read a few things from step 3 in this big book, 4th edition. I remember reading this on page 60, right? So my sponsor would give me an assignment every day, especially when we're coming back from a meeting and it was on a specific step. He'd say, read this, read that. So I'm reading this on page 60, being convinced we were at step 3. And I'm like, well, how did I get to step 3 already? Step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. Here's what the next sentence says. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? So I'm not going to read everything because it's a lot. So page 60 says, explains just what do we mean by that and just what we do. What do we do? What do we mean by that and just what do we do? Sounds like we're going to take some action, not just sit on a log like those 3 frogs. So page 60, page 61, on page 62. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. God, higher power, creator of the universe, the great spirit, the All-Father, however you want to describe it. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. God, higher power. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions alone galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. Page 63. That decision involves understanding we were powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable, okay? And you're discussing all of this with your sponsor. I hope you have a compassionate and wise sponsor. So you're having these discussions. My sponsor told me, and I told this story before, about when I was first sober and I couldn't stop thinking about a drink. So I called my sponsor. He said, why don't you ask God to remove it? The obsession. I did. I prayed. We had a discussion maybe the next day. And I didn't think of a drink for quite a few hours because I was asking God to remove that. And my first sponsor said, that same higher power that removed that obsession to drink could help you with all your other problems. It says in this book, alcohol was only a symbol or a symptom. We had to get down to causes and conditions. Resentments, fear, sex conduct, 4-step, character defects, shortcomings, 6, 7-step, amends, willing to make amends, 8 and 9. Because all those are causes and conditions that when we became hurt, frustrated, disappointed, or annoyed, we couldn't handle it. We lied. We hid in alcohol, went on benders. That's how we reacted to the problems of life. Okay? So by now you should be convinced. First, you found out that your sponsor in the AA group are talking about these steps that help them overcome alcoholism one day at a time. In this book it says, all we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition, okay? Here we have people that have the same problem we do. You start going to meetings. You feel better, okay? These people are talking about steps in a higher power that made it possible to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And I think it's step 2 in the 12 and 12 book that says, well, the sponsor tells us attendance at a few meetings isn't enough. We have to do more. Step 2 in the 12 and 12. So, all of this has become apparent. We feel better. We feel like we found the answer to the riddle. Page 63. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of His presence, God, higher power, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. And then on page 63 is this third step prayer. Well, it sounds to me like it's more than what those 3 frogs are doing on a log. Especially now, I'm going to read this. Bottom of page 63. This was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action. When it says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him, our will is our wants, wishes, and desires. So we're turning our wants, wishes, and desires over to the care of God as we understood God. At that point, I understood God as that power that helps me recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. So we make a decision to turn our will and our lives. What are our lives? That means our experiences. You know, those experiences of an unmanageable life. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Now, have you ever asked yourself why the steps are in past tense? We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Our lives have become unmanageable. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. If those first 100 men and women who recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body were actually able to tell you what they did, if they were in this room and I would say to them, how did you recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body? They would say, well, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. And I would say, well, what else did you do to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body? We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That's why those steps are in past tense. It's those first 100 men and women. I believe it's the preface. Let's look. I apologize. It's XIII. Forward to the first edition. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be needed or be necessary. We think this account of our experiences, this is the first 100 men and women, we think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. Make it an amazing day. Make it. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of day you're going to have. And not just that, make it an amazing life. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of life you're going to have. So why not have a good one? Don't just read this book. I hope you have a sponsor that explains it to you. Don't just read this book. My sponsor told me in the beginning, I'll know if you're reading it because you will ask me questions. I'll see you in the next video, hopefully. Johan out. Peace.